So I've equated it to like someone standing on the ledge threatening to jump, and then you have to talk them off the ledge, right? And then you talk them off the ledge, you think everything's all good, you start walking back to the exit, and you notice they're not beside you anymore. You look back, they're back on the ledge again. Like, fuck. You go talk them off the ledge again, and you successfully do it, and then you do the same thing. They disappear again, they're back on the ledge. It's like, okay, after a while, it's go ahead and jump. Do it. You know what I mean? Do it. Fuck it. I don't think you're gonna do it. You know what? I don't think you're gonna do it. Go ahead and jump. Prove me wrong. Right? That's how it feels dating an anxious person sometimes. If they're like extremely anxious. Because no verbal affirmation is going to fill that void. Right? Even if you do give them clarity, they're going to consistently find something else to um, fixate on and complain about. So that's how they're draining. The avoidant person is draining because you have to spend so much energy trying to figure out and read between the lines with them. You don't know what's going on. You never know what's going on with them. So because they switch up and are not clear, it's very draining for you to understand, like to analyze their behavior. So yes, they both sabotage connections, but in different ways. How do I know that this is the right man for me? You gotta take a risk. How long have you been dating him? Time reveals all. Time reveals all. So let enough time pass, you will get the clarity that you seek. What was that? Oh. Again, people, if you have a question, you can request up and I will take your call and solve your issue, okay? Is an anxious person the same as a nervous person? Not necessarily. When we pull away for safety, it's a problem. When we stay and communicate, we're being too much. Yes, because those are not your only two options. You don't have to pull away, right? And you don't have to over communicate. Like, this is the same thing avoidant people do. You try to make it seem like the way that you behave is not an issue. It is. That's why it's called an insecure attachment. It's based on an insecurity, right? Yes, that's a problem. So you should try to solve it. Those are not the proper ways to engage in a romantic connection. When I do two extremes, it's an issue. Right. When I don't communicate at all, it's a problem. But when I just constantly complain, it's also a problem. I can't do nothing. You're damn right. Both of those are very bad outcomes, very bad approaches to dealing with people. Yes, there's a whole middle path you conveniently ignored. I do appreciate the content, but dating is a battlefield and I ain't equipped. I mean, fair enough. It is difficult. How do people even become avoidant? There's for anxious and avoidant, there's a possibly a genetic component, but then also, it can be created in childhood, right? So for an avoidant person, they likely had a parent who didn't attune to them, like actually connect to them when they needed it. So imagine a child crying and the parent being like, "Shut up, stop all that crying." Not even concerned why the child is crying, just telling the child to shut up, right? They learn that their emotions are not safe. So if my parent doesn't feel like my emotions are important, then I guess I should feel the same way, right? So they suppress their emotional experience. And avoiding people are detached from their emotional landscape. I've been the draining one and I hate that. Everything a lesson, though, and opportunity for growth. Okay, right. Should I leave if he consistently hasn't planned dates after I express it doesn't work for me? How long ago did you express it? What was his response? So for an anxious person, they need to work on communication skills. No, they probably should communicate a bit less, actually. Anxious people over communicate. Anxious people have to, one, not treat anxiety like it's a problem that needs to be solved. Two, not believe that anxious voice every time it whispers something in their ear. There's a multitude of things anxious people have to work on. Because when you feel that anxiety, it makes everything feels like it's an emergency and urgent. Like, send that text now, you have to. Call them now, you have to. Talk about this problem now, you have to. Right now, right now, right now, right? That's the anxiety. It makes everything urgent. And it's draining to other people. Very draining. Very draining. It's draining for the anxious person as well. They can't ever rest. They're always looking for a threat. The real thing the anxious person has to do is build a life for themselves. Best advice I've ever heard for anxious attachment is to pretend like you will never be with somebody. Pretend like you'll never have a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, or wife. Hypothetically. How can you build a life where you can still be happy with that outcome? And whatever the answer to that question is, go do that. So build your life. Go make new friends. Go create hobbies. Go pursue a passion. Because the problem with a lot of anxious people is they make their partner their entire world. They make them their entire world, and they put that responsibility on the person they're with. And no person can tolerate that much responsibility. It's too much. Nobody can be your everything. Do you take female clients? Absolutely. If you want your 1 hour coaching call, this icon right here, you can hit that button below. Shoot me a message. I'll ask you about your situation. If I can help you, I will send you a link to book your call. Prices go up at the end of the month. So if you want that, go ahead and do it. Same thing for you all who have asked about the implementation package. For people who've already purchased their 1 hour coaching call, price of the implementation package goes up at the end of the month. It is the 26th. Don't sleep now. I am not bluffing. Let me see. Boom, 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 boom. If they were consistent, we wouldn't even be here. No, a lot of anxious attachment is in childhood, right? So you were anxious before your first heartbreak. Some of you became anxious after going through a bad experience, but that's not no one else's responsibility. Sucks that happened to you, your responsibility to heal from it. Like, what are we talking about, right? Still your responsibility to take care of it. Because the person that you want to be with isn't going to give a fuck. They're just going to look at you as being annoying and then leave you alone and get with someone who's less annoying. So either you make peace with the fact that you will be left for being annoying, or you'll start to solve the problem. What about men who make the woman insecure and cause them to become anxious? What about them? Why is that a question? How's that relevant to the topic? Yes, that happens, but like, what about them? Right? What about the parents who caused you to be anxious in the first place? Let's keep asking questions. What about the parents who caused you to be anxious in the first place? What about their parents who made it so they weren't good? They didn't raise children who could become good parents in the first place. Like, what are these questions? Don't help solve the problem. Better questions to ask is, how do I deal with my anxious attachment? Not, where can I shift the blame for this shit? I feel like I'm avoidant and I'm aware of my emotion, but I choose not to really acknowledge it sometimes. You probably are, but yeah, you need to work on that if you want a healthy relationship. That's exactly what happened to me. My mom would always tell me to shut the fuck up. Right. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Why is a relationship with an ADHD man so difficult? Well, as a man with ADHD, I'm curious. Why is it difficult for you, Olivia? Inquiring minds would like to know. I've dated one person who's neurodivergent. It does have its challenges, but those traits can manifest differently. Like one big thing is like when you're like ADHD, being forgetful is a big thing because people take forgetfulness personally. Um, what else? ADHD, you also have object permanence. So sometimes if something isn't right in front of you, you're not actively thinking about it. Something that people also take personally. Well, for me, I avoid the feeling, but I do be anxious about it, so I don't know how to communicate. You might want to call in Jazzy so we can talk through it. I'm struggling because I've never dated, but I'm building my career, but I need to do both. Yes, I would say so. You need to do both. Need to do both for sure. Um, After an argument, partner said I should pack and leave. Now I've completely shut down. Am I the asshole? I don't have enough data to answer that question for you. Dealing with someone that's emotionally unavailable creates anxiety too. Right. So don't deal with people who are emotionally unavailable. Right. After an argument, I already answered that question, Bryce. How do parents cause anxious attachment? It could be chaos in the household, right? Creates conditions where you have to be hyper vigilant. Parent who's like hot and cold, just not consistent. Needs aren't consistently being met. You're rewarded probably for being performative. Maybe you had to earn love. Maybe when you got good grades, that's when your parents like celebrated you. You know, there's a few different ways. Bryce, stop spamming that question in the chat, please. It's not even a good question. Like my anxious attachment pushes women away very quickly, even though I'm a good guy at heart. Right, you could be a good guy, but that's different from being an attractive man. So your intentions don't matter. The impact of your behavior is the main thing that matters. Is there a way to identify your attachment style outside of a relationship? Mm-mm. No, no. It's based on how you are in a romantic connection. Mm, I think I'm a little bit of both. You could be. How can you tell if a man just wants a casual relationship and not a commitment? Observing his behavior over time. Consistency over time is what you're looking for. You have to follow up with people who have ADHD a lot to get follow through. Right. That is a big one. I'm guilty of that. It's different though, man. It's like, because you can't put all people with ADHD in the same category, right? Because I know for me, when I date and I like somebody, I don't I don't hyper fixate on them, but they're also very real to me, if that makes sense. So I don't have to be reminded of shit. For real. The connection is significant to me. So they get prioritized. But there are some people with ADHD where it's like even if they do fuck with you like that, they still just forget things. So it can be very challenging. dealing with someone who's neurodivergent, for sure. For sure. Any books you recommend for understanding ADHD and neurodivergent mind? I haven't really read any books on ADHD and neurodivergent mind, so I can't give you any guidance there. I just have lived experience with it. Yeah, I'm cooked then. Why are you cooked, Grizzly? Let me see. Do we got a caller? Is it a red flag when they don't talk on vacation but posting and going live? Uh, did you try to speak to them while they're on vacation? That would change things, right? If they don't reach out to you, yellowish flag. People treat vacations differently. If you tried to reach out to them, they didn't answer, but you see that they're posting and going live, yeah, that would be a big red flag to me. My attachment's fluid depending on how the other person is moving. I feel that. Appreciate you, Woot. I have ADHD and I get hyperfixated. Got you. Yeah. That normally means you probably don't have enough going on. Like, if I didn't have anything going on, I too would be hyperfixated. If I didn't have friends, if I didn't have a purpose that I was pursuing and hobbies, I probably would also hyperfixate on the person I'm dating if I really liked them, right? That's the other thing with neurodivergent people, at least in my personal experience. If I don't really like you, it feels like a chore for me to talk to you. Like, text. Not a good texter if I don't, like, really, really like you. I can think you're cool. I can enjoy you. But unless I really like you, texting back feels like I'm doing the dishes. It's not inherently rewarding for me. Being left undelivered since 18 hours, is it bad? It depends on, I need the full context. Can you touch on some basics with long distance dating? It's tough. It's very challenging. Um, you need to be able to, when you are a long distance, you have to overcompensate with communication over the phone, like so phone calls, FaceTime, that kind of stuff, to make up for the fact that you're long distance. You have to see each other frequently enough, right? I don't suggest anyone with anxious attachment do long distance unless you're dating someone who's secure, right? And be weary that most people who are open to long distance are people who are avoidantly attached. The distance serves the function of keeping you from at a distance from them, literally at arm's reach. A lot of people have experienced closing the gap with an avoidantly attached person, and they do a 180 after that, right? Lastly, once you enter into the relationship, you're on the clock, meaning you have about a year to a year and a half to close the gap before shit gets spooky. Those are your basics. This hyperfixation, also anxious attachment thing. Yeah. Why is he addicted sexually but not in other ways? Like we have fun when together. What do you mean he's addicted to sex? He just wants to have sex with you, but he doesn't want to see you in a different context often. Like, I need you to give me more context. Just don't assume societal norms with a neurospicy. Correct. Right. It's hard, man. It's difficult. It's very difficult. I'm not a good tester either, saying. I didn't say I wasn't a good tester. I said if I'm not interested in you, I'm the best tester on the planet if I'm interested in you for real. If I really like you, elite tester. Then that's why I don't date casually. I only date people who I feel that way toward. I don't think that's specific for neurodivergent, just normal in general. Not necessarily, right? Because think about it like this. Say for instance, you have a man who wants to have sex with a woman, right? Before he fucks her, he is probably a very good tester. Then afterwards is where he drops. Even if I'm dating casually and I only want to sleep with a woman, I still can't do it. I can't. I don't. I'm just not interested. So you're right. If someone is just genuinely not interested, they probably don't want to deal with you like that. But what I'm talking about is more extreme than that. So how do you work around not liking to test? It depends on why you don't like to test. Do you just not like that medium of communication? If so, then communicate in a different way. Yes, he doesn't text or he doesn't text me much, and we don't go out together. Okay. And you've talked about this? And if so, what was his response? What's going on, Crystal? How do I communicate problems without worrying about misunderstandings? Um, you talk about the problem and without demonizing the person. Focus on the behavior, not the person. But some people are going to misunderstand you intentionally because they do not like conflict or being told anything negative about themselves. Is it true a man will continue to pursue you until he feels he no longer has a chance? No. I mean, that's true probably for some guys. It's not, men aren't a monolith. So once you start saying men in general, you're oversimplifying things. People, this is not matchmaking, so do not request to talk to me if you're here for matchmaking. This is for questions and answers, all right? Okay. No, do not. Maz, if they look like they're here for matchmaking, do not let them up. If they even have the phenotype of a matchmaker, do not let them up. Because I just took Zara down myself, and she requested back up immediately. Look at that bio. If that bio is weird, don't let them up. One guy had a sad face emoji in his bio. Don't let him up. That's a dead giveaway. If they're like a great woman in their bio, that's not a real person. That's a bot at best. How do you deal with a manipulator? Always blaming you in a relationship? You leave. You don't try to. If you have identified someone as a supervillain, why would you want to keep dating the Joker? You leave. What do you mean deal with? So just name the problem, but don't address him as a problem. I would need you to give me like specific examples, Jazzy. Like y'all have to feel free to call in. It's harder to like keep track with what your question is in the chat. Understand, when you ask me a question in the chat, you get a very surface level answer. When you call in, you get an answer in depth that is tailored to you as a person. No, people get fearful about calling in, but just understand, if you want your problem to actually be solved, call in. But isn't that everyone? No one wants to hear that they are doing something wrong. It's how you handle it. No, some people can take constructive criticism. So no, that's not everybody. Nobody enjoys it. Like, oh, please give me more criticism. Nobody enjoys it, but some people can take it. And other people like get into like defense mode. What's up, Pink? Um, you remember me? No, I do not. Okay. Um, what happens when an avoidant pulls away and you don't reach out, but they expect you to reach out? How do you know they expect you to reach out? Like, how do you know they expect you to reach out? Gigi, don't ask that question again, please. I already answered that question. I'm about to manipulate you. Okay? I'm about to team up with your boyfriend and we're going to double team you in manipulation. All right? So don't ask me that again. You leave a manipulator. That's someone you leave. All right? Okay. So I already answered that for you. And it's not a good question to ask. It's pretty obvious what the answer is. How I never got the man I want? Probably because you write sentences like that, I would assume. They pulled away before and they asked why you didn't reach out. They may not be purely avoidant. That sounds like a fearful avoidant thing, possibly. An avoidant pulls away. They don't. It's not a test. It could just be. You could just be dealing with an anxious person. That's what y'all have to understand. Y'all like put these labels on people because y'all look at people don't understand attachment styles at all because they've learned attachment styles through like social media videos, and when you learn it that way, it's typically oversimplified. Anxious people also pull away. They do the same shit. They will pull away as well. So if you're looking at someone who pulled away and thinking that it's just automatically means they're avoidant, that's not what that means at all. How do you know a guy doesn't find you physically attractive on the first date? He probably doesn't schedule another date with you. Would you date a woman if you found out she cheated on her ex-husband? Yeah, if you cheat on your husband, I'm not dating you. No. Mm-mm. Nope. Sure, you probably learned your lesson and everything, but I'm not running that risk. All the way good. All the way good. My guy, finally, got a caller. What's
Hey,
up,
how are
bro?
you? Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. What's going on?
Not much, bro. How's your day going?
So far, so good, man. I'm trying to, woo side with the chat. You know what
Yeah,
I
I
mean?
got a few minutes. Like, I leave my break at like 1, so
Okay.
I figured I'd chop it up with you a little bit.
Yeah, talk to me, man. What's going on?
So these aren't like specific questions to me, but I was just something I was curious about.
Uh huh.
When you're implementing Spark and Safety, do you tailor that to depending on the individual, or do you just like personally have like a set plan when you do things on a cadence of time?
It's not really an intentional act for me. So it's like I don't change up based on the person, but it is a good question. Like I'll give you an example of how that would look differently. So let's say you're a very desirable guy, right? Tall guy and shape guy, good facial genetics, you dress well, and you are engaging a woman who probably is not your what they call looks match, right? So you look better than her essentially. Or you just have a lot more there's a big gap between the two of you for some reason. Like it could be that there's a big status gap, right? So like if a celebrity like Michael B. Jordan or Chris Brown was dating like a regular woman who happened to be very beautiful, that gap in status kind of changed the dynamic a bit more. So when you're in those type of situations, you want to lean into safety a bit because your status or your looks are already doing all the spark.
Right.
There's no need to be a lot big on flirtation or teasing. You don't. I mean, you can do it if you want to, but it's not really a need. Like a Michael B. Jordan walked up to like a regular woman, he doesn't have to flirt. He can just be a nice guy essentially, and they're going right.
Right.
So that's just to tell you that there is a difference with how these things are executed on based on the context of the situation. Now, I'm not actively thinking about spark and safety when I'm engaging somebody. I just use that to teach people, but you shouldn't be actively thinking about it, right? Like if you're someone who's learning, maybe on the back end, you can kind of assess if like you were spark heavy or safety heavy, right? Just to
Right.
kind of integrate it a bit better. But it
Right.
shouldn't be something you're like consciously thinking about a lot.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, it's weird. I think like when I was thinking about it, it was more like the tension between the two. Because personally, I can do both,
Mm-hmm.
but I've noticed different women receive it differently.
Mm-hmm.
So like one person might see it. I'm sure you've experienced this as well, but like one person might think you're a fuckboy, right? And
Right.
then another person might just really like it. You know what I mean? And then vice versa. Somebody might think you're too safe, but somebody might prefer that over their own safety.
Right. And that's where we get to is where it's like it depends on what level you're at, right? So I teach spark and safety to guys who don't know anything about how attraction works.
Right.
But at a certain point, you don't want to optimize further. Like for example, what I teach is like for men to develop themselves and become more attractive in the process. But some of the stuff I teach has its beginnings in like pickup artistry, right? Pickup artistry was predicated on you learning how naturally attractive men moved and behaved, and then learning that for yourself. And it was kind of manipulative. They would try to just see what kind of phrases or behavior worked to attract women. So they made it their mission to crack the code on how to get a particular woman.
Mm-hmm.
So when you ask the question of like, should you adjust spark and safety for a woman? My answer to that is no. You should integrate spark and safety so that's just how you live your life and then be yourself through that filter.
Right.
And the women who resonate with it are probably going to be good fits with you. And the women who don't are going to be bad fits for you. But you shouldn't be adjusting the approach because that's when you're like trying to get a particular person instead of using your own energy as a filtering mechanism.
I understand. So just be you,
Right.
kind of.
Right.
It's a good. All right.
That's
Nice.
both the best advice and the worst advice simultaneously, depending on who the person is, right? So if you're a person who's like developed yourself and has like kind of got a good handle on your insecurities, be yourself is great advice. If you're a very insecure person who is extremely programmed by society, right? And a people pleaser, being yourself is terrible advice.
Okay. So let me ask you this: when you go on your first dates, do you either subconsciously or consciously, whichever one it is, do you go into those just kind of like being yourself, but I guess like a little bit toned down, or do you just be like your full, comfortable self? How do you usually approach that?
I'm my full comfortable self, but I don't share all of my inner world, right? Which I had a problem with because that was more so. I think it's due to me being neurodivergent. Like if somebody asked questions, no matter how deep the question was or how personal, I would answer it. I don't care, right? But I had to learn to like pace things. Yeah, you just kind of just show up and have a good time. Like I lean more, I teach guys to lean more into like self amusement. So I tell them the two things you want to accomplish on the first date, right, is making the woman feel something, so that's spark, right, and then making her feel seen and understood, which is safety, but not from a place of like performance. You should be genuinely interested in her. You should want to understand her and like understand her inner world. If you don't have that curiosity, then maybe you're dating the wrong person.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
so yeah, you want to try to understand her, right? So for example, like if you're asking about what each other does for a living and she says I'm a nurse, most guys will breeze past it like, "Oh, my mother was a nurse." Okay, do you like your job? Right? That's their conversational path. Mine is
All right.
different. Mine is, why did you decide to become a nurse? I want depth. I want the inner motivation behind the action that you took, so I can understand
Okay.
you, right? And those are different questions than they've been asked before. And then the whole like make them feel something. That's just spark. That's just escalating, being able to build tension, that kind of stuff. Which again should be just an extension of who you are.
Right.
You may have to
Okay.
intentionally practice it, but in order to integrate it. But the goal is for that to just be an extension of who you are, not something you're doing per se.
Right. I understand. At what point did you realize that you were overthinking, or no, oversharing, I meant, things?
Mm, when I
And how did it
understood,
manifest?
so it was just I don't think that didn't really ever create a problem for me, for real. It was just as I taught guys more and I started listening to like their problems, I learned that a lot of them were shooting themselves in the foot by like tension is the gap between known and unknown. The more you become known, the less tension is inherent in their connection. So a lot of relationships lose polarity and they lose passion because both parties are becoming known to the other person. Now, there's nothing wrong with becoming known. It's a beautiful thing to become known by somebody. But you shouldn't be fully known. You should still be growing and evolving as a person. And that should outpace how much you're being known. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the back end of a relationship,
Right.
kind of.
Right. So
Okay.
if you're both being known, which is the process of emotional intimacy being cultivated, and you're still growing as a person and evolving, there's still going to be more of you to uncover, which will preserve some of that tension. Once you
Okay.
become known and your behavior becomes known and your routine becomes known and there's nothing surprising about you, then there's like the tension goes away. So I tell guys to continue to develop themselves so that they can outpace the process of becoming known.
So what does that look like in your eyes?
Just for me, it looks like me engaging in different hobbies, meeting new people, going deeper into my passions, educating myself, traveling more, right? Cultivating new experiences. So I'm growing. I'm becoming more expansive. So now there's more to uncover. I'm learning more about myself as well, right? What a lot of
Right.
guys do is they get the woman and then they think that they're done. They relax, right? They just relax. Like, oh, they have that Thanos moment where they look out at the farm and they're like, I'm done, right? You're never done. It's the burden of masculinity. You're never done. So when you get the woman, the game has started. You think the game has started because it probably was quite the journey to get her in the first place.
Right.
But once you get her, that's when the game really starts. But a lot of guys think they're finished. So they rest and they stop putting effort in and stop invest in energy. And the feminine does not work like the masculine does. The feminine is present moment fixated.
Right.
So the emotional reality to the feminine is what they are currently feeling. A lot of guys don't understand this. It could be you could be with a woman who you made happy for years. Let's say you've been together for 5 years. First 3 years you made her happy, right? Or you put effort in, right? And the byproduct of that effort was her being satisfied with the relationship. In the last 2 years, you're not putting any effort in. And then she leaves. And you're like, what the fuck? All the things I've done for you gonna leave? Right? Because you're looking at it from a masculine lens. The masculine lens is like loyalty. These are masculine virtues. Loyalty. And that's not to say women aren't loyal, but it's to say that it is a masculine virtue. Right?
Right.
The feminine is more feeling focused. Feelings are the realities for them, right? So that's the game that you have to play. That's what you have to engage. And you're never done doing that. That's just the truth. That doesn't mean I oversimplified it just to get, to convey the point. That doesn't mean that the moment you stop, putting any effort in, or if you have like a down moment, you're gonna get left. No, that's a low quality woman who's gonna do that.
Yeah.
Most good women will give you a grace period. They'll give you a lot of grace until it's like, all right, I done been chilling for a year because you were going through something. It's been a year or two and you've been going through something, so I've been patient. But now it's like, it seems like you're not shaking out of this. That's normally how it happens with someone who's quality.
Right.
Low quality is like the moment it happens. It's like you seen the videos of Drake's song is like, what if I get broke? What if I go broke and have no more rats to spend on you? And like women are using that audio and they're like leaving. Low quality. I know they're joking, but that's low quality. That's what a low quality woman would do. It's like, okay, you went broke and I'm getting going, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's low quality, right? High quality will like be there for you, maybe even try to help you get back on. But if you become a buzzkill long enough, she's also going to leave you.
Yeah. Do you think you would have to be with someone that's constantly growing as well for this approach to work 100%, or does it not really matter in your eyes?
Like for the man?
Yeah. Like, could you outgrow your woman potentially?
Oh, you definitely got to outgrow your woman for sure.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. That's where mine went with that.
Yeah, like dynamic men tend to want dynamic women.
Right.
So like me being, I'm a pretty dynamic man, right? Like your average woman who goes to work, comes home and scrolls on TikTok can't do shit for me.
Right.
I would be so bored in that relationship. Can't do nothing for me. So I tend to like women who are a bit more stimulating. Now the problem with that is women who are complex in that way, oftentimes that correlates with trauma, which is difficult to navigate.
Okay.
A lot of depth is created from pain. So if you're attracted to depth, it's likely that the person you're attracting went through a lot of pain to achieve that depth.
And would you say the problem is like now dealing with somebody who might have pain that could affect the relationship? Is that where you're going with that? Or?
Yeah, trauma definitely affects a relationship for sure.
Yeah. So that would be like the new problem, I guess, potentially.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to navigate.
Okay.
Oh, it's very difficult.
It's a fun thing to think about, though, right?
Right. It's very difficult. It's like there's pros and cons to everything, man. It's very difficult to navigate. It can be very frustrating, but it's what it is.
Right.
It's what it is.
Well, I do have to cut it a little bit short. I got to go back to work, but I just wanted to pop in and talk a little bit.
All right, big dog. I appreciate the question, man. You saved a life.
You too. I hope you have a good one.
All right, dude. Take care.
Bye.
Love when Sal calls in, man. Good questions, good listener. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm newer to your content, and I like, you seem like a really educated guy. I like the stuff that you have to say.
Appreciate
so
it.
thank you for that. essentially, I feel like the more expansive I'm hearing you talk about being like a dynamic man, and the more expansive I become and the more dynamic I become, like post my divorce, which is like 4 years out at this point, I feel like it's a turnoff to the men that are attracted to me. So I also feel like the men that are attracted to me are not like my educational match. They're not like, we're not on the same level educationally and financially. So I'm trying to put myself in more positions where there's just a different caliber of man, right? Like nicer gyms, nice museums, restaurants, cultural activities, things like that. But it doesn't seem like the men in those environments are I don't know, brave enough to approach, or they seem to operate a little bit differently. Like more intellectual men don't seem as emboldened to like come up and talk to you. So I'm just curious to your thoughts on what would you advise like a 40-something-year-old divorcee who's getting back out there but not really having a lot of luck. It just seems like the guys that are interested in me are like, they're not the type of men that I'm interested in.
Okay. So how would you describe the type of men who have shown interest in you?
They're typically like high school graduates, kind of blue collar men working, kind of working, hardworking guys, not, usually good guys, but when we get into like intellectual conversations, they don't have a perspective. They have no idea what I'm talking about on, current issues. I think I talked to some guy about like, oh, what do you think about the Roe v. Wade verdict? Like when that came out some time ago, and he was like, what's Roe v. Wade? You know what I'm saying? So like, that's what I'm talking about when I say not like an intellectual match.
Okay.
Does that make sense? And like, typically like the financial piece doesn't really bother me, but it ends up bothering them.
Right.
The fact that like I do pretty well for myself, and I have a lot of cultural hobbies, and pretty driven kind of a woman. It doesn't, the way they move through life doesn't bother me. Like if you want to be a mailman for the rest of your life, that's fine. It's a good job. You know what I'm saying? Like, but when they start seeing the way I live my life, they end up being like, well, like I can't really hang with this girl. The restaurants she goes to are expensive, or she travels on a very regular basis, those kinds of things.
Right. And how are you meeting the men who you say have shown case interest in you?
Honestly, like not in the best of environments. It's usually out at like parties with friends. These like, R&B nights. These are not the most like elevated places. They're just like parties out. So yeah, that's part of it. But I also have gone to these more elevated spaces, and it's like nothing.
What kind of elevated spaces?
Like, where have I been lately? Like nicer hotels. Sometimes I'll take my laptop to go work at like the Omni, or I'll go to a nice restaurant downtown by myself to have dinner. Or I really like art, so I'll go to like museum gallery openings, art exhibitions, jazz, jazz nights. I really like music, so I'll go to a lot of live music venues, things like that.
Okay. The one problem that I'm seeing here is that you're placing yourself in dynamic environments which are defined by environments where there's different people there every time you go. You're not benefiting from the mere exposure effect or building familiarity with people. So you would need to make a switch to put yourself in more static environments. So for example, going to like a high-end luxury gym at the same time so you can sync up with the schedules of the people who go at 2 p.m. every day, right? That effectively turns it into a static environment. And then when you do so, you just start connecting with people. You don't make you don't make it your mission to find partnership. You just open the door to serendipity, right? So you just engage people and spread positive energy, right? Because every platonic, both platonic and romantically, right? Because every platonic connection you make can open the door to a potential romantic connection as well. So you're just spreading good vibes. That should be the approach.
Yeah.
It's good to hear that the financial component is not that big of a deal for you. I also understand that a lot of men don't want to sign up for that just because it just hurts polarity so much within the connection, even for like well-meaning women. It's
Yeah.
like I know a lot of women they just can't get themselves to really respect a man who they egregiously out earn, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, it just subconsciously leaks out. So
What are some more examples? Because I did just join Lifetime Fitness in my area, and I
okay,
agree with you. It's an incredibly high end place. Like the caliber of people I'm meeting, everyone is really like, successful, and I love my new gym. But like, you know, that what else? You know what I'm saying? I'm there every day with my son. I'm a single mom, so there's
right,
that component.
right,
He's 5.
right,
So there's a lot of factors, I think, with myself, but I'm
right.
curious what else.
It's very difficult, man. You're gonna have to really lean into patience with this situation because type of men that you're trying to go after, there's some asymmetry in how valuable that is.
Yeah,
So like
I
what
agree.
you
I
have
can see that.
achieved hasn't done much to make you more attractive in a man's eyes. The type of man that you're looking for, he's
Yeah,
exceptionally attractive to women. So they're going to optimize for like, um, depending on the man, either the best looking women that they can get or women who they feel like they really can build with. And the latter probably already is taken, right? A man who's thinking
right.
that way of like, I'm getting a wise woman who can help me build probably found his wife in college or something like that, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, you got your work cut out for you. You don't want
So
to.
I'm gonna be single forever. Thank you so much.
Not necessarily. You got that's why you got put. That's why you got, but you can't afford to like not have a strategy.
Nah, yeah.
Yeah, that's the
That's why I
situation.
saw your post literally before I saw your live
Uh,
about the static environments, and I hadn't heard that approach yet. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense.
right.
Um,
Right. So you want to find where it's like the two concentric circles, right? So one circle you have like what you're genuinely interested in, and the
mhm.
other one is like what qualities the man that you are interested in would have, right? And then where those circles intersect, the environments that check both of those boxes or where you would place yourself, right?
Yeah.
So if
These
you
environments are also a bit of a investment.
right,
And so, I'm working on building, that sort of discretionary income to go towards like, a golf club or,
right,
these sorts of static environments. But these are like members only places. The
sure,
caliber of man I'm looking for is in those spaces. So, you know, that's
sure.
also a factor.
Yeah, so it's you want to have at least two. You don't want to have a single point of failure, so you don't want to just have a one static environment like that you put yourself in. There's also a component of like which we haven't dived into, uh, how you're engaging, right?
Mm,
Because I can tell you when I talk to women who are around your age range and with the type of education, they get into like they lean very heavily into vetting, in my experience. I'm not saying you are, I
mm,
haven't asked you any questions too, but just in case you do. They lean very heavily into vetting. So on like the first dates, they start asking a bunch of compatibility questions, which makes the person on the other end feel like they're being interrogated. And it's not a good feeling because people tend to choose people based off how the other person makes them feel. So if I
yeah.
feel interrogated, that's a bad feeling. Now I'm probably not going to want a second or third date, right? So I always tell both men and women, right? Because men will do the same thing. You get into, as you get a little bit older, you get into like agenda mode sometimes, where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, who can I just find to put into this slot? The other person feels like you're just looking for someone to put into that slot, and you're just making sure they have the qualities that you are looking for and optimizing for. It's a turnoff. Like if a woman is talking to a man and she can tell he just wants a wife. Like I had a woman client who she used to date her mentor, and there was like a good 15 to 20 years age gap between them. And they had dated in the past, and then he kind of came back around in his 60s because he had prostate issues. It
Oh,
ran in his
yeah.
family.
He's looking for a caretaker.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was a
No,
complete turnoff.
I'm pretty adamant about like I was in a marriage for 10 years and kind of tried to make something fit, right? And like I've been there, done that. Like I'm pretty adamant about like, you know, dating for the enjoyment of like other people's time and energy and just like general vibe. Like I really don't feel like I get into vetting mode.
Okay.
Because I really like my life and I have a young son with special needs, so I'm very particular. I'm not looking for just anybody to bring into my life. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
I'm perfectly fine being single, but I would like partnership. I really enjoy my life.
So go back to the thing that you were talking about with intelligence, with the Roe versus Wade thing. Was that like a first date question that you asked?
No, we had been seeing each other for months actually.
Okay.
And, you know, he was kind of like, I think he was like, worked at Amazon. He might have been like, you know, a forklift driver, something to that effect. You know what I mean? Just to give that wasn't his job, but in that realm.
Gotcha.
And so we've been hanging out and like the vibes were good. He's like a really fun guy. He also had a young child. My child's only 5, you know, and so there was some symmetry there, you know, and we were things were looking good. But then when he started realizing like what I earn, I never spoke about it, but when he just saw my apartment, saw my car, you know, and he kind of started scaring me because he would say questions like, well, how much money do you make? Well, how did you get all of this? And I'm like, I work. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so that sent off red flags for me. Is like, is this man looking for somebody to take care of him? Because we're not doing that.
Right.
I don't mind like picking up a check every now and then.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Buying tickets to a show.
Okay, really so it wasn't the Roe v. Wade situation that made you that turned you off. It was him assessing how much you made. The Roe v.
Wade like kind of cemented it, but the like probably within the previous like weeks, I was starting to sense, him looking for kind of like a sugar mama vibe. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, that is annoying. It's a real challenge. That's why people really have to lean into patience. You're going to definitely need to have some degree of capacity to be disappointed without without becoming like super jaded in the process. So I will always tell people to take breaks from dating once that starts to occur. So once you start to become kind of jaded and you can feel the beginnings of that occurring, just take a break.
Yeah,
that way
that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm in the break mode.
Gotcha.
I just stop dating. I'm just focusing on my own creative passions and hobbies and stuff like that. But because I was getting burned out.
I get it. It's real tough, and it gets tougher the older you get. You know, I completely understand, empathize. But it is good to see that you are open to experiencing a person even though they may not check all the boxes that you want. That's going to put you in a good position because one, we often don't know what we'll like until we experience it.
Yeah.
Your list is probably equally based on fantasy and or past experiences, but that doesn't account for what you haven't experienced yet. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So be open, and then also, you know, have your non-negotiables, but understand that, you know, in life you can get anything you want, but you can't get everything you want.
Yeah.
So no matter who you end up choosing, there are going to be some sacrifices and compromises, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's helpful. I appreciate your insight. I'm going to keep following you. I like your content. I like what you do. Thank you so much for having me up.
No problem, Sydney. You take care, love.
All right. Bye.
All right, people. If you want your 1-hour coaching call, this icon right here, hit that button below. Shoot me a message. I'll ask you about your situation. If I can help you, I will send you a link to book your call. Be advised that prices go up at the end of the month. They will never return. Okay? But yeah, that is definitely a big challenge. Men and women have it's very interesting since I've been working, because for those of you who have just started following me, I for a long time only worked with men, but recently started working with women as well. It's very interesting the asymmetry of problems that we have. What men complain about and what women complain about. Like what she's experiencing is not something a man will experience. How was the last dynamic woman you dated? She was neurodivergent. So I would say that was the last dynamic woman that I dated, for sure. Be hard to find. People who are more dynamic tend to be taken. They tend to be taken. What do men experience? The biggest complaint that men have had that I've dealt with, and personally, a lot of women who are single cannot handle intimacy. Not sex, but emotional intimacy. A lot of them run. A lot of men are experiencing, a lot of women want to have a connection. They want to desire it. They don't want it when it's in their face. They get scared and they run away. I personally experienced that a number of times. They want it, but they don't want it when it is available. And that is, I cannot begin to tell you how draining that is of an experience. It can make you jaded very quickly because they all talk a good game. They all pretend to be healed. And then when shit gets real, you find out how much of a false description that was. They will get going at no fault of your own. Because I've always said, like, I'm very anti-dating app. I'm very anti like dating all these people because I'm very anti do it for the plot. Because anytime you have these negative experiences romantically, that shit affects you. It leaves its mark. These situationships are leaving marks. They're not helping you. They're damaging you further. They're damaging your capacity for connection. You're doing it to distract yourself. You're doing it for fun, but you're not seeing how it's actually impacting you negatively. We're not meant to have all of these connections with people that go poorly. We're just not meant to. We're not wired for that shit. It's part of the reason why so many people are fucked up nowadays. I work with clients in my personal experience. You will treat a woman well. No problems. I have guys, spark safety, they do everything I say. She likes it. Until it gets real. And now, I'm not healed enough. Or, oh, I can't handle it. I can't, you're going to hurt me. I care about you too much, so now you're going to hurt me. That's what we have to experience. Right? And it's like, that's where you can match your clients. Not necessarily. I get what you're saying, CC. You're thinking that the women here are different. Some may be. There's no way to tell. Because any woman that I've experienced like that would before I dated her, she would claim she's not like that. A lot of you have never, who are agreeing to this, and even you, CC, y'all have never dealt with a man like I'm describing. So you don't know how you would handle it. You dealt with men who were a bit avoidant. You dealt with men who kept you at arm's reach. You dealt with men who were a bit toxic. When you shift and you date a man who's emotionally intelligent, who's also good, but who also hold that mirror up to you, to your actions, you may act differently in that dynamic, differently than you have in previous dynamics. I've experienced this. I've experienced women who tell you that sob story, their exes did them this way and the third. They've never encountered a man like me, and the moment they do, now they have a new experience and they run. Never ran before, because they've never been in a situation to run before. Right? Some can't, like, look at all the men in the chat who are being vocal now who they weren't talking before. They were just watching, and now they see me talking about this. Now they're like, yeah, he's preaching, right? Because they've experienced it. It's like, yo, I'm not doing anything wrong here. And they sabotage it over and over and over and over again. That's why I have to take breaks, man. I got to take breaks because it's like you get close to someone, that shit takes a lot out of you when you know you didn't do anything wrong. And it's like, that's why a lot of these dudes just go cold. Because it's like, what? I get better results when I'm toxic. I try to get them out of that, but it's like, it's true. They get better results in terms of the woman sticking around because that woman gets activated. She feels anxiety, and that's what she's used to chasing. She's used to chasing anxiety. And if you don't make her feel anxiety, she gonna blow up the connection because she not used to this shit. You don't do what's best for you. You tend to do what you're used to. You tend to want to experience what your nervous system is used to experiencing. The fallacy is people thinking that people will choose better if they have the option for better. That's not what people do. They choose what they are used to, even if it is consciously bad for them. They do it all the time. And that's one of the sad things that you have to face when you actually heal, is how few people can actually meet you. That's why if you look biblically, Solomon talked about like wisdom comes with a lot of pain, right? There's a lot of pain you have to experience when you become more wise. Part of being wise is being healed, right? Because it is wise to heal. But in the process of healing, it's like, oh, it's really just me out in this bitch. There's no one else here. There's not many people. You see someone in the distance, hey, right? There's not many people who actually cross that threshold. And people who haven't, most of them are terrified to dealing with it. Most of them are terrified to actually heal because it's unknown. They fear the unknown. And when you show up in that way, you are unknown to them. So they go away and they go deal with it. And they'll leave you and go deal with the previous people they complained about, and then constantly go through that cycle again of dealing with people who they have to complain about. Because at least that version of hell, I know that one. I know how to deal with that one because I've experienced it before. They don't want to cross into the unknown. They don't want to do that. So that's something that a lot of men experience. I've not heard women talk about. So both parties are having a bad time out here. It's not just one or the other. The solution to not being that kind of woman is what? Healing? Courage. I would say courage. You just don't run. You just face it. You deal with any fear by exposure therapy. So you have to willingly lean in, even though everything inside of you is screaming to lean out. But it is draining, bro. It is draining. I can tell you from experience how draining it is. And women don't realize they will only meet a few good husbands in their lifetime. Right. That's true. You don't have forever. Or just like if you're afraid of the snake, you have to be exposed to it to work through that fear. Right. You got to expose to it. You got to be exposed to it. What do you believe both parties need to break through this? Well, I don't think that most women who I'm talking about, obviously don't mean any harm. If a woman comes across me, she ain't experienced me before. She's not experienced someone like me before. The women who I'm thinking of as I'm talking about this have never experienced a man like me before. So it's not like they're doing this over and over and over again. They probably only have 1 to 3 chances to do it at all in their lifetime. They don't know that because that fear takes hold. They're not thinking logically. You don't have many at-bats with a person like that, man or woman. There's just not that many available in the single. Most people built like that are in relationships or marriages. There are not that many people in the single dating pool who are wired that way. Leaning alone for a while or together is worth it. What do you mean, CC? Can you clarify what you meant? Like I've had to learn like through personal experience. A person's past, you don't want to judge them by their past, but like you can infer some things. So remember how I dated a woman who was like her ex was emotionally and physically abusive, right? She can't. There's no way she grew enough to be a match for me after that. The gap was too big between me and him. The gap was too big. So she's been single for a year. There's no way she did that much growing in a year to now be a match for dealing with someone like me. It's not like I'm not saying it's not possible. It's not possible with human means. Maybe divine intervention, it could be possible. But in a year, yeah, you're not growing that much, man. You're just not. So I foolishly still entertained it, and the same thing happened. So I was like, yeah, well, I guess I had that coming. Gigi, did you mean to request? Let me know, because you ain't requested in a while. Verify in the chat. No, sorry. Of course you didn't, Gigi. Of course you didn't. People tend to lean towards familiar settings and going for something new. Right. I mean, not running away, staying in it, but that's okay. I forgot what you said. Hey, CC, if it comes back to you, ask the question again. If it comes back to you, ask the question again, love. This has been amazingly helpful. You know what would be even more helpful? Yeah, your 1 hour coaching call. This icon right here, hit that button below, shoot me a message. I'll ask you about your situation. If I can help you, I will send you a link to book your call. All right? Prices go up at the end of the month. CC, okay. What's happening?
Hello. I was like, let me try to remember, but I feel like I just need to ask you it.
Okay.
Because when you were talking about not running away and leaning in.
Uh-huh.
But if the other person may not be quite there, are you talking about like still doing it on your own, or it's when both people lean in, even if they're, anxious or avoidant or whatever, but they're both scared in that moment? You need both people or just one?
What the specific dynamic that I was explaining is, well, if I use myself for an example, right? I'm not going anywhere. I'm very consistent. So there's nothing, I'm not running from anybody.
Okay.
So it will be on the woman to not run. It will be on her to lean into the connection. Okay. But a lot of things happens unconsciously. A lot of times when women or men sabotage, it's unconscious. They don't know they're doing it. It's unconscious. They're not used to it. It's the equivalent to a broke person winning the lottery. They're going to find a way to spend that money. Even if you warn them you're going to lose the money because you're not used to having money, they're going to be like, oh, I'm not going to lose it. They'll find reasons to spend it unconsciously. It's like your self-esteem and your identity, which is really, this is an identity conversation, acts as a thermostat. So like if you identify unconsciously as someone who makes $50K a year, you're going to find a way to only make $50K a year. If you win the lottery, you will find your way back to $50,000. You're programmed to do it, right? Just how your subconscious works. That's why identity work is so important. That's why we talked about identity work on our call, right? It's incredibly important to change your identity. That's like, even you look at this from a religious perspective. Christianity is about learning your identity in Christ and being a child of God, changing your identity. Like Jesus would change the name of the disciples, right? This is identity work. Identity is incredibly important, and it's not something that people focus on. Something I obsess over because I know that that's like the core issue of the problems that a lot of people face. Because they will seek out what is familiar even if they consciously despise it.
And that's what I'm working on, when you're talking about the before, and like the way you're describing, like how men are having this issue. I'm like, well, I don't think I would have that, because of the work I feel like I have been trying to do. But
the hard part for me sometimes is the grace. When do you like actually sit in, well, this is really what this is, and or this is grace that I need to give someone.
Uh-huh.
Right. So, but I can imagine if I did have someone who, even though like how I am, I'm like, okay, like you talk about courage. Like I have the courage sometimes, but like I'm still gonna tell you, this is awkward, this is unfamiliar for me, or this is whatever. But I'm more so still like trying to lean in. But if the other person is like not quite there yet, then it's like,
Well,
that's
you're
frustrating.
you're
And I
talking
imagine
about
that for what you're saying, you have men that like on the opposite end, that would be more, I would think, is a match, not necessarily a mismatch, but
it's possible. Like, listen, it's possible. It's very possible. However, I think it's more possible for the women who like ones who have scheduled coaching calls, right? Because that means there's enough pain there for like you to really try to solve the problem. There's some women who just passively watch this live, so it's dopamine for them, right? Oh, it's a new insight. Then there's women who actually want to change. They're like taking notes, and then they're like doing coaching calls. You can make the argument they are primed to lean in if they were in a connection like that. But I can tell you that if you haven't experienced being with a man like that, you may not know how you will respond.
well,
That fear,
I know I haven't experienced
right?
a
So
man
that
like
fear,
that, because I would have had a longer relationship than 4
right,
years,
right,
right?
right.
To some capacity, but yeah. So, the proximity is where I'm like, this is a numbers game, right?
Yeah, it's a numbers game. It's rare. Um, I would say like Danny's a man like that, right? So like we look at the 4 stage model. It's like when you get to like 3B in the 4 stage model, you have like a healing energy about you where it's like if I'm talking to a woman or dating a woman who's stage 2, the love that I give her can create the conditions that if she is oriented towards healing, it can facilitate the process. Maybe
Yeah.
even accelerate it. But so many women in the single market are unwilling to lean in because they've been burnt so many times, for one, and for two, because like I said, it's an identity mismatch. They're used to playing out the drama of you do something I don't like, I complain about it. I try to get you to change. I try to get you to do that. You create distance. I chase, or then I ultimately end things. They unconsciously seek out that narrative, and they don't know it. That's why they keep experiencing the same shit. You keep
Yeah.
experiencing the same shit. You are now in a pattern. Part of you is trying to experience that. So they keep experiencing that same story, and then they meet you, and you break the story. Now it's a different narrative. It's a book they haven't read, movie they haven't seen. What is this? I don't like this. I don't like this genre. This is making me more uncomfortable than the situation I complained about made me, for different reasons. Now I'm feeling a sensation I never even felt before. Now it's like, okay, I'm probably gonna fuck this up anyway. I'm not ready for this. You'll hear narratives like that where it's like, I'm gonna ruin this because I never experienced anything. I've heard that before. So like they get going. It's a different experience. Like normally you hear men like at the extremes. They're like either the spark guy, like I said, who can get a lot of women, attract a lot of women, and then they're the ones who like probably create distance, hot, cold. They get chased by the woman gets anxious, so now she wants clarity to lessen her anxiety, so that causes her to become more invested in the connection, right? Then you have guys on the other extreme of the spectrum where they're more safety guys. They make the woman feel very safe, but the woman doesn't feel any desire for them. I'm in the middle.
Right.
You feel turned on and you feel safe. Okay, where did this motherfucker come from, right? So it's different. Now you haven't experienced the combination of those variables together. So now it's and also
Like
consistent.
I do that. I try to, well, okay, in an indirect way.
Right. Right.
Give hints. But, because being direct is like, yeah, I don't know. I want to say exhausting, but then I understand the positive parts of it. But it's because it's coming from a place of I don't want to keep having to ask.
Wait, I'm
for what
confused. So when you say you're being direct, what do you mean? I'm trying to connect it to the point I was making.
So to what you were saying of like that spark and safety, right?
Right.
So if somebody is giving off safety and then you want that spark, I'm going to try to do something to initiate that spark, but I'm not gonna be like so directive, like, hey, we don't have this in our, our relationship or whatever.
That's still a different dynamic. So like I'm describing a situation that you're shoehorning your experiences into, right? So it's like with the type of dynamic I'm describing, you wouldn't even have to have that conversation.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, cause I feel like that's the struggle. Like you always say that a lot of people are one way or the other.
But then that can be like the drama that you're playing out is like, selecting for unconsciously guys who you have to have those type of conversations with. So the drama that I'm living out is I'm going to get with men who I have to train to be who I need them to be. So
I don't want to.
I know, but that's the thing. What you consciously want and what is unconsciously driving you are two different things.
Okay.
So you can consciously say, I want someone who is like the man I'm describing, while unconsciously still select for the men who you have to mother in a sense and constantly give feedback to.
Okay.
Right? Because that's what you're familiar with. And it's a hard pattern to break. It's very difficult. And it takes a lot of like energy and intention to break it. Right? I'm probably guilty of this in some way myself. I have to probably work with my coach again to unpack deeper layers within my psyche and why I experience what I experience. But
it's not building. It's like you still have to guide, because in a way I still have a want for what, like you can't like give up complete, like I have things I like, I have things that I'm interested in and
right.
that other person. So it's not necessarily building, but I have to kind of guide, because there may not be like this natural curiosity, I guess, behind every single intention. So there are going to be some times that I might say or do something, but it's not going to be direct. That makes sense. It's still like it's like a guide. But I'm not trying to build him to be exactly my perfect person. Sorry,
Gotcha.
I'm just going off.
I got you.
I was saying in the comments, I'm like,
Right. And this also connects to anxious attachment. That's the struggle with anxious attachment is like, is this a real problem or is this a problem I'm creating to have a problem?
Yeah.
A lot of anxiously attached people they always find something to complain about.
Oh, dang.
I've only dated a handful of like women who are anxiously attached. It can be like the amount I've experienced women who like they'll complain about some shit and then do the exact thing they just complained about. And so why does this not apply to you? Right? Like if you give me this feedback, why are you not applying the same standard to yourself? It's just like they're just finding shit because their brain is fixated on. You find what you look for. Look at what the reticular activating system is. You ever heard of that phrase before? Reticular activating system is a mechanism in your brain. You can't possibly take in all the information possible. You can't look at the color of my seat, count the stitching here, look at my glasses, look at the inscription right here. You can't take in all that data. So what your brain does is it filters things that it thinks is important to you. That's why when you buy a vehicle, you start seeing that vehicle everywhere. Because the act of purchasing that vehicle is sending a signal to your brain, it is now important. So now you start noticing. It was already always around you. You're just now noticing it more, right? So the reticular activating system gives you the information that you are looking for. Now, if you're anxiously attached, it's weaponized against you because you're always looking for signs of abandonment. Thus, you will find it. It knows that you want to find signs that will lead to you being abandoned, so it makes you notice those things and find evidence of those things. That's why I made a video for anxiously attached people to always look for disconfirming evidence, right? So like if this person didn't call you and you're like, well, they're inconsistent, right? You're like, well, they're inconsistent. That doesn't work for me. Okay, pause, ask yourself, is there any evidence that disproves that? Have I seen times where they've been consistent? Then it's like, oh, well, they've been consistent. Okay, so I'm amplifying this recent phenomenon and then making it seem like that's the totality of the experience when really it's just an experience a recent experience. So
Yeah.
therefore, now that I have that disconfirming evidence, I no longer need to have a full emotional conversation about this. It's a lot, I know.
It is because I'm thinking of situations as you're speaking,
Right.
and I'm like, oh well, pull back and come back to what he's talking about because maybe that doesn't apply. Like literally, I'm like sitting here like, no, stop.
I have to do this shit myself, man. I'll tell you all the things that that work based on things I've applied. I have to have this conversation with myself because I also suffer from recency bias. I have anxious attached origins, so that recency bias is a motherfucker. It will make you color that person based on your recent experience with them.
But I think that's my biggest problem because sometimes you'll say stuff and I'm like, oh yeah, I don't care. That's why, like, when I am anxious and if I was to list out the exact times that I were, it's hard for me to like not understand that those were isolated events, yes, but they were a pattern of feeling abandoned. And then it's like, well, why was I feeling exactly abandoned? It's because that situation did carry more emotional weight. But it's related to my identity. So it's like moments where I really feel like, damn, I wanted to be seen and I wasn't. So now I feel some type of way versus like phone calls or, certain kind of like consistencies that are, really big in a relationship, but they're just like, they're fine, like that's little. It's just, if that makes sense, what I'm saying. So, for like example would be, I just bought myself some flowers. I bought myself sunflowers for the first time. They're my favorite flower. In all of my years, I've never been asked what's my favorite flower. Therefore, I've never even received my favorite flower. So I can get flowers as a gesture, but always in my mind is they're only giving it to me because the gesture, they want to be nice, but I'm not feeling seen because they didn't even ask me what kind of flower I really wanted. That little extra detail actually has more weight because it's like the flowers are just, they represent like a generic, like, oh, men, give women flowers. Okay,
Right.
But really, you should give the woman her flower.
Right, but that is anxious attachment. Right?
Yeah, so that's what I said. Like something like that carries more emotional weight versus understanding the gesture was the man is giving you flowers. He thought of you. Right? He's trying to be nice to you. So to me, sometimes that's where it comes out. It's not necessarily in every single thing that happens throughout the relationship, right? So some of those surface level stuff, I'd be like, oh yeah, like I don't have to deal with that, or I don't need that. So I'm working on it.
Yeah, it's a work in progress.
Every time you say something, that's the part that I'm like, I'll think of something like that.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance, man. It's a delicate balance because you also don't want to be the person who you just regulate through everything and just tolerate any kind of treatment. So it's like you got to find a delicate balance between, yes, regulating yourself and meeting your own needs. That may mean that you get yourself some flowers, right? Sometimes, right?
Right,
You show yourself that love, but also knowing when you and the person just aren't a good fit, right? Because like, yes, you're going to have certain preferences, and you may be incompatible. So you got to know, you got to have the discernment to know when this is a situation where it's like, okay, you just need to kind of regulate through it, or when it is like, oh, I'm actually, this is genuinely not how the type of connection that I want. It's difficult. It's difficult to navigate, but I think just being aware of that distinction is helpful.
Yeah. Well, now I know more so because since being in the live.
Mm-hmm.
And that you give me more to think about. You give the audience more to think about, and that would kind of make me think of the other question that I'm gonna drop when it comes up when people are asking and they're just it's a lot of content on here,
Yeah.
YouTube and Instagram, and they're saying the opposite of what you are saying,
Right.
and I really realized that even more so. Yeah.
There's a lot of bad advice out there. There's a lot of bad advice out there.
It is. And yeah, so y'all repost his stuff.
Right.
Repost and share.
Talk to him.
Repost and share. But yeah, thank you for clarifying that. And that's why I said what I said, but you've given me more to think about, and I'm gonna probably get this little clip here and digest it more.
There we go.
So,
all right, Cece. Appreciate the question, love.
Bye.
Bye. I'm here because I do the opposite of those others too. Those are the games. Right. Yeah, a lot of people give bad advice, man. They give what I call stage 2 advice, if you know about this, the 4 stages. Very like a lot of people give advice that they will encourage you to play zero-sum games. It's predicated on, like, if you see people who give women advice, right, it's predicated on the woman winning and the man losing. And then people who give men advice, it's predicated on the man winning and the woman losing. Can you share the link to book a call again? Right. Yeah, this icon right here, hit that button below. Shoot me a message. We'll ask you to share more about your situation. If I can help you, I will send you a link to book your call. Prices go up at the end of the month. Yeah, you want to, that's a lower paradigm. Zero-sum games is a lower paradigm. A higher paradigm is win-win. How can both parties win? How can both parties win? That's how you want to orient yourself. But most advice is, one of you got to lose. Somebody got to lose. So make sure you don't lose, right? Compromise understanding. Right. 100%. This stuff is complicated, man. You don't have to know all of this in order to, obviously have a good connection. There's people who they've never had a romantic dating live in their life, and yet their marriage works for some reason. I think that's normally a byproduct of being raised in the proper household. When I've seen it work, because it's like when you think about like how you get educated on relationships and stuff like that, it's primarily through, at least in your formative years, you observing your parents. And the parents of your friends, right? Their parents. But no other place gives you that type of education. All right, Pete, what kind of last minute questions do we have? Great live. Appreciate you, Vanessa. Hopefully y'all got some value out of it. Ideas for static environments. It depends on who you are, love. And what you're into. Appreciate you, Sydney. Depends on who you are and what you are into. Come on, Dev. What we congratulating Yams on? New job? Oh, congrats. Oh yeah, I was streaming this on YouTube. So if y'all missed it, link in bio for the YouTube, and you can watch the replay. It should be the most recent live on YouTube. So make sure you like and subscribe. We just got monetized on YouTube, man. I gotta put some effort into the YouTube channel. Maybe I'll make a video after I get off here. Thank you, but I haven't been able to join as often. You know what you should do, Yam, since you got new employment and you haven't been able to join the lives often? You should probably get a coaching call. That's what I would do if I were you. I'd probably get a coaching call. No pressure. But you know, that's what I would do. I'm married. Of course you are. That's good. That's good that you're married. What do you watch this for then, Yams? I know there's some people who are like happily with someone who watch this stuff. Or do y'all just want to hear people's like drama? You like people's drama when they call in with their stories? Okay, that's fair. You should post these videos on YouTube. Just ask permission. People that come up, it's already streaming on YouTube. I stream, like my laptop's right beside me, so I stream. I'm actively streaming on YouTube right now. What I am going to do is hire a clipper though, to clip the lives. What if I find pricing for the coaching calls? You got to shoot me a DM and I will share pricing details with you. It's very enlightening regardless of relationship status. Well, I'm glad y'all getting value out of it. What's up, Maya? Nice of you to join us late, per usual. Late per usual. It's like reality TV to her. Right. We do get some interesting stories. Like someone called in last night before, like, were y'all here for the kink situation? It was a 23-year-old girl dating a guy in his 30s. And they had like incompatible kinks. That was quite interesting of a call. I forgot. You're welcome for the reminder. Yeah, that was an interesting call. She got a lot of DMs too from that live. Which one of you guys DM'd her? Because she said she got like 10 DMs when I asked her that question. But yeah, it's like she had like certain kinks, and then they had like a dom sub dynamic. It was a BDSM type of relationship. We don't normally get questions like that, but I always like a stimulating, like, new question. And he like had a what was it called? What was his kink called, chat? I forgot. It was degradation. Tough word to say, by the way. Degradation kink. He liked to degrade her, whereas she liked to be praised and like worshipped. So she liked more, her kinks were more oriented around like softness, and his were more like, one might say satanic. One might say demonic a little bit. He don't know what she was talking about again, y'all. I forgot. Saying the word was hard. I know what she's talking about. Yeah. So like she emotionally cheated with like a pastor's son, and he found out about it. So like now he's trying to get them to move because they like stay in the house that he owns. So he wants to move 1.5 hours away. He's also actively trying to get her pregnant. And she was like, what do I do? Leave. That's what you should do. Leave. I'm hoping you're packing your bags right now. She was like, yeah, but that will hurt him. What? Whoa. was like, well, Jesus wouldn't want you in this situation, love. She was like, you think so? Think so? Think so? What are we talking about? Of course. Trying to lock her in a prison sentence? Right. It was definitely a power dynamic in that relationship. 360 deal, right? Moving her out to a house that's haunted so she can never see her lover. I've seen this movie, right? Buddy pulled out all the stops. He was like, yeah, when he found out I emotionally cheated, he started making me do sexual favors. Like, you seem to be quite unbothered about this. Like, even your tone, you're speaking like very calmly to me. She was in deep. She was tied. Yeah, he had her mind. It was like with that, those type of BDSM dynamics in kink communities. It's normally trauma leads you there. The road to the kink community is paved with hella trauma. Typically, we're talking about SA, all types of shit. Nobody comes out the womb with those crazy ass kinks, man. That's not normal. That's not normal. You've been through some shit for you to want stuff like that. Can you give other examples of how women sabotage healthy connections? It's just one main example. It's like they leave or they can probably convince themselves that there's something wrong with the guy. She was talking about free use. Yeah, free use is an interesting one, isn't it? Free use is a interesting one. She said he was into free use, right? Mm-hmm. What is free use? It's when you can't deny the person sexual access. Yeah, he wanted to share her as well. So yeah, it was a bad situation. So hopefully she heeded the advice and left. But it didn't sound like she was going anywhere. It sounds like she rented the U-Haul for them to move 1.5 hours away. That's the vibe I got at the end of the call. Damn, she was dating Diddy, right? If a guy puts hands on you while you were pregnant and later says it was a big mistake, does he mean it? Yeah, you should leave. Anyone that will put hands on you while you're pregnant is not. She was like, I feel like I'm making him sound worse than he is, right? That was a very interesting call. But I don't need any more questions for Shorty. I had enough questions out of her. All of those people are pretty much avoidantly attached, though. I told you I dated a woman a long time ago who was poly. I was talking to her about it, like briefly, talking like one date. And I was like, my hypothesis is all of y'all are avoidantly attached. When you talk to someone who is like in that type of alternative lifestyle, they always describe it like it's a more evolved way of living than what a normal person does. Gotta disagree. All right, people. I got calls coming up, so I got to roll. But again, if you want your 1 hour coaching call, this icon right here, hit that button below. Shoot me a message. I'll ask you about your situation. If I can help you, I will send you a link to book your call. Prices go up at the end of the month. Okay? If you're new here, make sure to follow. I go live twice a day. I'll be live again tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So if I didn't get to your question this afternoon, I will get to it then. Appreciate the mods. Appreciate the chat. I will see y'all later. Y'all take care. All right, YouTube.